Joining us now, NBC's Monica Alba at the White House, Jesse Kirsch in Miami, and legal analyst Misty Marris here with us on set. Jesse, I'll begin with you because you were in that room for this announcement. As we heard from Miriam de la Peña, this is personal, it's also political. Walk us through these indictments and what we heard in this press conference.
Yeah, so this.
And apologies, Jesse, we're having audio trouble, so we're going to let you attempt to reset and turn to Monica.
Yeah, Monica, the Trump administration has been increasingly focused on Cuba lately, right? Why is the Department of Justice charging Raul Castro now, all these years later, and why haven't past administrations done that?
It's an excellent question, Kate and Zinkley, and interestingly, it was one that was posed to the acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche, down there in Florida, and he said that he didn't really have a good answer on that specific question, but what we can tell you and look at here is overall, this is an attempt by the Trump administration to apply even more pressure to Cuba currently and its leadership to see if there is going to be any kind of a change or a shift, and whether this could potentially be the groundwork being laid for possible military action. That is something certainly that President Trump has been asked about repeatedly for weeks. He has tried to indicate that there could even be a, quote, friendly takeover of Cuba, but didn't specify what that meant. But just now, moments ago, the president was asked specifically about this indictment and what it means. And he said that this is a very big moment, not just for Cuba, but for the United States. But whether it indicates that there is going to be more escalation, he said, no, there won't be escalation. I don't think there needs to be, because the place is, quote, falling apart. It's a mess, and they've sort of lost control. So again, to answer your question about why in this moment is the Department of Justice bringing this indictment, this is part of a lot of different moving parts that we've seen over the last couple of weeks and months that does seem to be an attempt to apply more pressure before there could be additional decisions and moves made by the Trump administration when it comes to Cuba.
Yeah, and Monica, you're saying weeks and months, though, Misty, I want to go to you because these indictments stem from an event that was 3 decades ago. So to start, walk us through the charges.
So first you have 4 counts of murder. This relates to the 4 victims, the 4 deaths in this case. Then you have 2 counts of destruction of an aircraft. Then you have conspiracy counts, and this relates to all of the defendants. And this is particularly important in this particular indictment as it applies to Castro himself. Remember, when you have a conspiracy case, it means that all of the defendants agreed to commit a crime, agreed to shoot down these planes, and took an overt act towards doing it. So you don't necessarily have to be the one committing the crime to be held culpable. This relates to Castro because his role, according to this indictment, is being the head of the military and ordering this operation. So that's something to watch as this case plays out.
Essentially commander-in-chief.
Correct.
And Monica, back over to you. You mentioned that maybe this is the start of more activity in Cuba. Could we possibly see a U.S. operation similar to the one used for Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, where Raul Castro is arrested on Cuban soil?
Yeah, and there were some pretty telling comments in that press conference earlier when they were asked, well, how is Raul Castro going to potentially face these charges? And the answer from the acting attorney general was, well, he's going to either face them by coming here to Florida or by, quote, another way. So what could that possibly mean? But I do think there are some important differences between Cuba and Venezuela and these situations that can tell us a little bit something about what the U.S. might be considering here, which is when you saw the indictment against Nicolas Maduro, and then the capture and the raid that brought him back to the United States, those things went along together. They happened in a sort of immediate fashion. So that's not necessarily what you are seeing here, at least today. And also, there's a difference in the leadership structure. In Venezuela, the U.S. had sort of assessed that Delcy Rodriguez could be somebody who would be the partner, the interim leader who has been working with the United States since that January raid. And then also, there's just a difference in the economies between Cuba and Venezuela and what could happen in that country if there was something similar to what we saw with Maduro as they consider a whole range of options here.
Yeah, and Missy, let's go back to you for more legal perspective on a point that Monica touched on. What would a prosecution of Raul Castro practically look like?
Well, so we're talking about 30 years ago. We're talking about a really intricate investigation. So a lot of what we would see come forward in the prosecution would be relating to all of the investigative materials, much of which had been declassified at certain points in time. So that that's what we're going to see. Critical issues being one, what we spoke about, that conspiracy issue as it relates to Castro. Another, the airspace. That's been a point of contention in the course of this investigation. Was this over international waters, which is what the United States says? Was this over Cuba, which is what they have maintained, that this was actually an appropriate defense that they took because it was in Cuban airspace. So these are the type of factual issues. If and when this case makes it to trial, if he gets here and the other co-defendants get here, those are the critical issues that a jury would be looking at.
Yeah, and we did have a statement out of Cuba and their leadership really refuting this entire thing. So you know that they would fight this if they could. Monica Alba, Misty Marris, thank you both.